In the previous couple of Sundays, we have looked at Jesus healing people, coming to people with his message, moving from town to town, and being mobbed by hordes of people, responding to Jesus, speaking to them, to healing them, to coming for them. And Peter, just prior to this in chapter 8, you can imagine the disciples are kind of thinking, where is this going? They didn't quite understand Jesus and who Jesus was. He was a bit shrouded to them about his purpose. And Peter, at one point, when Jesus in chapter 8 talks about that he would come and suffer and die at the hands of the scribes and the temple priests, Peter objects and says, no, it can never be. And Jesus then rebukes him and says, get behind me, and even calls him Satan or adversary. Get behind me, adversary. You are not getting it. You are not seeing the picture, and you are actually becoming a hindrance to my message by protesting. And so then Peter was probably feeling a little bit dejected, and so he has this experience now that Jesus gives him and the disciples, starting at chapter 9, verses 2 through 10. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, This is my Son, the beloved. Listen to him. Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what this rising from the dead could mean. This ends the reading of the gospel. Thanks be to God. Well, Peter here got a vision that he probably needed after feeling so dejected, after not really understanding who this Jesus was and what his plan was for bringing in a new realm of God, of kicking out the Romans and reestablishing the kingdom of Israel, because that is indeed what the expectations of the Messiah would do. Peter wanted this powerful, shiny Jesus that he got to see, this one on the mountaintop. Some might say he wanted the magic, was looking for the magic behind Jesus and how everything was going to be done. We all want magic in life sometimes. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, a day when a lot of people believe in magic, the magic of romance, to change everything, to make life better. And indeed, relationships can make life better, but as we know, the magic of relationships is often not very magical at all. But hard work, commitment, and learning how to love one another. But magic is something we believe in, and it can confuse us. Even the magic of romance can cause us to do dumb things, as we've heard in the news in our state. The magic to be blind to what is wise or what is unwise. Magic is something we look for all the time. There's superstitions in sports where people keep little traditions or don't shave a beard or things like that are good luck. I liked magic as a kid growing up. My brother liked magic. He did magic tricks all the time. He had all these magic tricks, and I would always wonder how you did that. And where did you go to learn this? I'd look for the books that he learned these from, and I could never figure out where magicians learned their tricks. He had also like doing the escape kind of magic, and he had a straitjacket that he could escape from, and he had this pair of handcuffs, and then he would be able to escape from these handcuffs. Well, one day I don't know why, he was feeling generous. He showed me how to get out of the handcuffs. And he showed me that in the handcuffs, in the little lock, and I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this, but there was a little thing that you could push down and it would snap open the handcuffs. They were trick handcuffs. And I was just a junior higher, a 7th grader, and I thought, wow, that was amazing. I now know how to get out of these handcuffs. Well, one day at school, Rob, another student, who was one of those students in junior high who seemed to be magical because he seemed so self-assured. He didn't have any of that junior high awkwardness that I seemed riddled with, and self-consciousness and self-doubt. Everybody liked Rob. Well, he had these handcuffs. And I saw these handcuffs, and he was playing around with them, and not having my fully functioning brain yet, as I was only in 7th grade, I said, I can get out of those. I know how to get out of those, thinking that somehow I could be cool if I could show that I knew the magic, and I knew it, and I could get out. He said, no, you can't. I said, yes, I can, and I debated with him, and I challenged him. I have no one to blame but myself, but I dared him. Lock me in those handcuffs, and I will get out. He's like, well, what do I lock you to? And we figured it out, and somehow we went across the basketball courts, these portables that weren't used, and he locked one hand to my wrist, and one cuff to my wrist, and one cuff to the doorknob, around the doorknob of this unused portable, across the school, across the basketball court. And then I said, aha, so watch this. So I started to play with the handcuffs, and I started to look for the little thing inside the lock that you push to unclip them, and it wasn't there. And I couldn't unlock it. I was like, aha, well, okay, I guess I don't know how to get out of them. But he just kind of chuckled and walked away. And then the bell, although we had a modern building, so it was more of a tone. The first tone at lunch, that lunch had ended, sounded. I said, surely he's going to come back within the 5 minutes that I have to get to class and let me go. But he didn't. The yard cleared. The school cleared. Everyone went to class. The second tone sounded, and I was left locked to the portable all by myself. Looking across at the school, at the windows of the classrooms, which were all black because they were shaded, knowing that they could see out, I couldn't see in, just thinking, that's me. That's junior high, exposed for everyone to see my weakness, my stupidity, my pride, all gone. Finally, of course, the vice principal came out, asked me what I was doing there. I'm like, it's not obvious. He had to go get Rob, and I think we both got detention for that. I didn't have the magic. I wanted to know it. I thought I knew it, but I didn't have it, and I was left vulnerable and exposed to be seen as just another awkward, flawed junior higher who everybody could see. We spend our lives chasing the magic in our lives. The first half of our lives might be spent chasing that vision of ourselves on top of the mountain, the best vision of ourselves, our best career of building our lives for who we are, our family, our success, our fame, our abilities, trying to climb that mountain, showing that we do indeed know the magic and to life and can stand shining to everybody who we are. Peter, of course, thought that this is finally the God that I wanted to follow. This is the Christ I wanted to follow, the one who would shine on mountaintops. Surely from here he will usher in his new kingdom and realm, and everything will be better. But then the voice strikes up, the cloud comes, and they are terrified, and Peter himself is found vulnerable. In Luke, it says he just falls to the ground, terrified, thinking maybe I don't quite get the magic. Maybe it's much more than I think it is. Maybe it's too big for me. and he is terrified. But all of that clears. And the scriptures say that everything is gone. Elijah is gone. Moses is gone. But Jesus is still there. And Jesus says, get up. And in Luke he says, don't be afraid. And Jesus leads his disciples down the mountain. That indeed we can believe and we can see and glimpse this divine of God, the glory of God, of Jesus, of the Spirit. We can believe in that and see it, but really in the reality, the day-to-day life, the call to discipleship is to come down off the mountain and to walk in the everyday as children of God, as people called by God, as awkward junior hires called by God to be the people of God. For that second half of the life, of the journey, that if we're willing to take it, comes after we realize that all those things we build our life up to be is really just a show. That the reality of life, where life really happens and where life really matters, is in the day-to-day, and the reality of who we are, and being authentic, behind the mask and the show and the shininess that we try to project and tell people and show people who we are, try to convince people who we are. That God is with us in the everyday. God is with us when we don't know the magic, when we feel locked and trapped and that everyone is looking out at us. That God is there with us and each other and through each other along the journey. It's hard to get to that point. We want people to see the best in us. We want to show people just the good things. And we keep those things we're afraid for people to see hidden away. We are afraid of their judgment, or perhaps afraid of facing things ourselves. But if we have anything to offer as a people of God, it's not what we can build on mountaintops, whether of ideas or excellence or shininess. It's the ability to walk with people when they feel exposed, when they feel weak, when they don't know the magic, when they feel left out or behind, or when they are called outcasts. That's what Christ came and did. To not rule from a mountaintop, but walks with us in our weakness, in the places where we are afraid. Walks with us in the everyday, and calls us to walk with him and with each other. Say, hey, you don't have to be shiny, you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to know the magic, because indeed the true magic of the gospel is that God did not choose to rule from a shiny high place. God chooses to be present and real through flesh and blood, and through the body of Christ, through one another. You don't have to be perfect, you don't have to have it all together, you don't have to know everything. You simply have to be willing to get up and walk down the mountain. And the magic happens in the most unmagical ways. In seeing that you indeed are magical. When you reach out to a friend who is in need and offer a word of love or offer to help, you are magical. When you agree to pray for people, you are magical. When you visit and when you help one in need, you are magical. When you volunteer in ways that nobody else will see, you are magical. When you agree to be a person of compassion in a world that is often harsh, you are magical. When you help a little child learn and grow into who they are, you are magical. When you help that junior hire who feels so awkward and lost, know that they are loved. You are magic. So let's be magic as we gather around this table of magic, which is flesh and blood, which is bread and everyday wine. It is a magic meal, not because it is supernatural and does amazing magical things unseen, but because it brings us all together around the one who loves us, to remember him, to walk with him in the everyday steps. This meal is for all who say, yes, I want to walk down the mountain and walk with Christ. Thanks be to God.